Step back from the plaque, sir.
Excuse me, I'm just reading the history.
We've had reports of vandalism. You match the description. Black male in a red jacket.
Officers, I'm Leon Foster, a history teacher.
Down.
He's not doing any.
Officer Brett Sullivan had no idea the calm man in the bright red windbreaker he just forced to the ground was a decorated Gulf War veteran and beloved teacher. Right there in the shadow of the Liberty Bell, two careers were about to end, a city would pay millions in damages, and the real victim would emerge as the true symbol of freedom. Before I continue, let me ask you, have you ever been stopped or questioned by police for simply existing in a public space? Drop your honest answer in the comments. Leon Foster, born in 1965 in North Philadelphia, grew up in a tough row, house neighborhood with a hardworking single mother and a grandmother who shared powerful stories of the civil rights era. Despite high poverty and underfunded schools, Leon excelled academically, earning top grades in history and debate championships at Simon Gratz High. At 18, he enlisted in the Army, serving 8 years including Desert Storm in 1991 as a logistics specialist. Under intense heat and threat, he coordinated supplies for hundreds of troops, earning a Bronze Star for saving lives during an ambush with calm, decisive action. After an honorable discharge, Leon earned his education degree from Temple University's summa cum laude and began teaching history at Overbrook High School in 1995. Over 25 years, he taught thousands of students, founded a thriving history club, and led dozens of trips to historic sites, including the Liberty Bell many times. Known for weaving personal resilience stories into lessons, he boosted test scores and prevented dozens of dropouts through dedicated mentoring. A 28-year marriage, 2 successful daughters, and community volunteer work at veteran centers made him a quiet pillar. At 54, tall and athletic with graying hair and warm eyes, Leon lived simply, jogging daily, tutoring kids for free, and advocating for better school funding. Neighbors called him the kindest soul. Now contrast that with Officer Brett Sullivan, 38, white, 6'2", bulky buzz-cut blonde hair, blue eyes often sharp with suspicion. Raised in suburban Ben Salem by a retired cop father, Brett absorbed biased views early. A high school wrestling star with suspensions for fights, he joined the Philadelphia PD in 2002. In the 22nd District, he amassed arrests, but also complaints were excessive force cases by 2007, mostly against black suspects. A 2005 traffic stop left a young black driver with a fractured rib, settled quietly for $15,000. In 2010, he sprayed a protester with hands raised. Desk duty followed briefly. By 2013, a banned chokehold hospitalized a black teen, another $50,000 settlement. Colleagues noted his short temper in diverse areas, where his stops targeted black residents far above average. Promoted anyway in 2018, Brett carried an us vestem mindset. His partner, Officer Travis Newman, 32, white, 5'10", lean, dark crew cut, green eyes. From South Philly's first responder family, Travis joined in 2010. Early complaints included rough arrests, racial slurs overheard false reports, and a 2017 tasing of a black father, $25,000 settlement. His arrest stats skewed heavily toward minorities. Together, they formed a high-volume duo shielded by a system that prized numbers over fairness. October 15, 2019, 2:45 p.m., Independence Mall, Philadelphia, 62 F, partly cloudy, light breeze. Tourists snapped photos near the Liberty Bell. Leon, in his red windbreaker, stood reading a historical plaque, notebook in hand, preparing a lesson after a normal morning. Sullivan and Newman, on foot patrol, spotted him. Guy in red looks suspicious, maybe vandalism, Sullivan muttered. They approached aggressively. Step back from the plaque, Sullivan barked. Leon turned calmly. I'm just reading. I'm a history teacher. We've had vandalism reports. You match, blackmail, red jacket. Newman claimed falsely. Leon showed ID and veteran card. I'm Leon Foster, Gulf War vet. This is public space. Sullivan scoffed. Veteran. On the ground now? Leon? This is unnecessary. I'm complying. Sullivan twisted his arm. Newman pushed him down. Tourists gasped, phones out. Cuffs snapped tight at 2049 p.m. Rough search found nothing. Why are you doing this? Leon asked quietly. Shut up. You're under arrest. Newman snapped. They dragged him to the SUV amid growing murmurs. False charges, disorderly conduct, resisting attempted vandalism. At the station by 3:05 p.m. More searching, still nothing. Leon waited in cuffs 45 minutes, then interrogation at 4:00 p.m. Newman, just tell us what you were doing. Leon, I want my lawyer. Sullivan slammed the table. Leon stayed silent. Identity soon confirmed by his principal. The truth was emerging. Let me know in the comments if you've ever seen or experienced something similar at a historic site. Type justice below if you think this kind of treatment is unacceptable. At the 6th District Station, the clock read 3:05 p.m. when officers Sullivan and Newman dragged Leon Foster through the back door. His bright red windbreaker was twisted, one sleeve half pulled off from the rough handling. The metal cuffs dug deep into his wrists. Later medical photos would show red welts and bruising that took weeks to fade. Leon walked with his head high, but inside he felt the familiar weight, the same disbelief he'd carried after combat, when the system that sent you to war sometimes forgets you exist once you're home. They shoved him into a small concrete holding cell, 8 by 10 feet, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. No chair, just a cold steel bench bolted to the wall. Sullivan removed one cuff long enough to chain Leon to the bench ring, then snapped it back on behind his back. The position forced his shoulders forward, sending sharp pain down his spine every time he shifted. "You sit tight, teacher," Sullivan sneered. "Well, figure out what you were really doing at the bell." Leon spoke softly, voice steady despite the ache. "I was reading about the Liberty Bell. That's all. Call Overbrook High. Ask for Principal Reynolds. She'll tell you who I am." Newman laughed. "Yeah, right. Every guy we arrest is a teacher or a veteran when they get caught. Save the sob story." They left him there. Minutes stretched into 45. Leon counted them in his head, military habit. At 3:50 p.m., his back muscles started cramping badly. He tried to lean against the wall for relief, but the cuffs prevented it. Sweat beaded on his forehead even though the cell was chilly. He thought about Carla, probably starting dinner by now, wondering why he wasn't answering texts. He thought about his students. Tomorrow's lesson on the 13th Amendment suddenly felt painfully ironic. At 4:00 p.m., they pulled him into interview room 3. Small table, 2 chairs, one-way mirror. Sullivan sat across from him, arms folded, while Newman leaned against the wall playing good cop. Newman slid a plastic cup of water across the table. "Look, man, just tell us the truth. Were you trying to damage the plaque? Spray paint? Carve something? We can make this easier if you cooperate." Leon looked at the water, but didn't touch it. "I want to speak to my attorney. I'm not answering questions without counsel present." Sullivan slammed his palm on the table so hard the cup jumped. "Attorney, you think you're in some TV show. You're in my house now." Leon didn't flinch. "I know my rights, officer." 5th Amendment. "I'm invoking them." Newman tried again, softer. "Come on, we searched you. No paint, no tools. Maybe it was just a misunderstanding. Help us clear this up, and you walk tonight." Leon met his eyes calmly. "I've already told you what happened. I was reading. You decided I looked suspicious. That's the only misunderstanding here." Sullivan stood up, towering over the seated man. "You think you're smart, huh? College degree, Bronze Star doesn't mean you get to mouth off." "I'm not mouthing off," Leon replied evenly. "I'm stating facts." They tried for another 28 minutes. Threats, fake sympathy, accusations of attitude. Leon repeated the same 6 words. "I want my lawyer present." Finally, at 40:35 p.m., they gave up and marched him back to the holding cell. But something had already shifted outside those walls. One of the tourists who filmed the takedown, a 29-year-old black woman named Aisha Coleman visiting from Atlanta, uploaded her minute 47-second clip to her Instagram story at 3:12 p.m. with the caption, "This is how they treat a black man reading history at the Liberty Bell. Unbelievable." By 3:40 p.m., it had been reposted to Twitter, of now X, then TikTok. Another witness, a white college student named Ethan Ruse, posted his longer angle to YouTube Shorts at 3:55 p.m. Views started small dozens, then hundreds. At 40:15 p.m., a local freelance journalist, Maya Thompson, who followed police scanner chatter, saw the tags Faye Liberty Bell, Fev Police Brutality trending locally. She reached out to her contacts at Overbrook High. By 40:42 p.m., Principal Angela Reynolds received the call. "Len Foster, arrested. For what?" Within minutes, she confirmed his identity, pulled his personnel file showing 24 years of spotless service, veteran status, awards. She called the station demanding to speak to a supervisor. At 40:50 p.m., the shift lieutenant finally reviewed the body, cam footage Sullivan and Newman had submitted. The video showed everything: Leon's calm compliance, hands visible, slow movements, repeated explanations. No vandalism tools. No resistance beyond polite questioning. The lieutenant's face went pale. He knew what was coming. Back in the cell, Leon still sat chained, wrists numb. He closed his eyes and breathed deeply, the same technique he taught his veterans group for managing flashbacks. He whispered to himself, "This too shall pass." But the system was starting to crack. At 5:15 p.m. the station phone rang again. This time it was a deputy commissioner's aide. "We've got media calls. We've got viral video. Get that man processed and out of cuffs now." Sullivan and Newman were pulled into the lieutenant's office at 5:22 p.m. The lieutenant didn't yell. He just played the tourist footage on his monitor. "Explain to me," he said quietly, "why a 54-year-old decorated veteran and public school teacher is sitting in my holding cell on bullshit vandalism charges." Sullivan opened his mouth, closed it. Newman looked at the floor. Outside, the first news van from Channel 6 Action News arrived at 5:35 p.m. Reporters gathered at the Liberty Bell, interviewing witnesses. "He was just standing there reading," one said. "They slammed him down like he was dangerous." Inside the station at 5:48 p.m., they finally uncuffed Leon. A sergeant apologized, awkwardly, formally. "Sir, there appears to have been a misunderstanding. You're free to go." Leon rubbed his wrists, voice low but firm. "A misunderstanding? I was assaulted in front of the Liberty Bell. That's not a misunderstanding. That's a violation." They handed back his belongings. He walked out the front door at 6:02 p.m. into the gathering dusk. Reporters rushed forward. Cameras flashed. Leon raised a hand. "I'll make a statement later. Right now, I just want to go home to my wife." But the story was already unstoppable. Type justice in the comments if you believe no one should be treated this way, at the symbol of American freedom, no less. Leon Foster stepped out of the 6th District Station at 6:02 p.m. on October 15, 2019. The sky had turned a deep indigo, streetlights flickering on along Arch Street. A small crowd of reporters and curious onlookers had already formed, maybe 25 people. Camera lights blinded him for a second, microphones thrust forward. "Mr. Foster!" What happened in there? Leon paused, took one slow breath, the kind he used before addressing a restless classroom. "I was reading a historical marker at Independence Mall," he said clearly, voice carrying without shouting. Two officers approached, accused me of vandalism with no evidence, forced me to the ground, handcuffed me tightly, and took me in. I identified myself as a teacher and veteran. They ignored it. I spent nearly 3 hours in custody before they admitted there was no basis for the arrest. A reporter from KYW News Radio pressed, "Did they apologize?" Leon looked straight into the lens. An apology was said, but words don't erase bruises or humiliation, especially not in front of the Liberty Bell. He didn't linger. He walked to his car, still parked near the mall, and drove the 20 minutes home to Germantown. Carla met him at the door, eyes wide with worry after his one brief text, "On my way." Long story. She hugged him so tight his sore shoulders protested, then pulled back to examine the red marks on his wrists. "They did this to you," she whispered. Leon nodded. "But I'm home. That's what matters tonight." Inside, he sat at the kitchen table while Carla warmed leftovers. He didn't eat much. Instead, he stared at the Bronze Star medal displayed on the shelf, earned in Sandstorms 28 years earlier, and felt a quiet anger settle in his chest. Not explosive, controlled. The same control that kept him alive in the Gulf. Meanwhile, the videos kept spreading. By 7:30 p.m., the main clip, Aisha Coleman's Instagram original, had been screen recorded and reposted to Facebook groups, Reddit's Ard Publifreakout, and Twitter threads. Views crossed 18,000, comments poured in. "This is why we can't just complain and be safe. Hey, could have been my dad. Liberty Bell my ass. Freedom for who?" At 8:15 p.m., Philadelphia Police Department's Public Information Officer issued a terse statement. An individual was detained this afternoon in connection with a possible vandalism incident at Independence National Historical Park. The matter is under review. No names, no apology, just deflection by 900 p.m. local activist groups, Black Lives Matter Philly chapter, the NACP branch, and the local teachers union had picked it up. Union president emailed every member, "One of our own, Leon Foster, was wrongfully arrested today." Overnight, the numbers exploded. By midnight, main video at 87,000 views. By 6 a.m. October 16C3 won 12,000 views across platforms. By noon, 1.4 million. By evening, 4.8 million combined. Instagram Reels, TikTok stitches, Twitter retweets, YouTube mirrors. National outlets took notice. CN ran a 90-second segment at 7 a.m. Viral video shows Philadelphia teacher and veteran slammed to ground at Liberty Bell. MSNBC followed at 18:30. The Philadelphia Inquirer posted a front page story online by 10 a.m. Decorated veteran, teacher arrested at historic site, police now reviewing incident. Inside the department, panic setting quietly. At 8:45 a.m. on the 16th, Deputy Commissioner Maria Delgado called an emergency meeting in the Roundhouse. Present Internal Affairs Captain, the 6th District Lieutenant, Sullivan and Newman is summoned on administrative leave starting immediately, and the department's legal counsel. Delgado played both body, cam angles, and the tourist videos side by side. Silence filled the room when Leon's calm, "I'm complying," played for the 4th time. The IA captain spoke first. "We have 7 prior complaints on Sullivan, 5 on Newman. Combined, 62% of their use of force incidents involve black civilians. Department average is 31%. This isn't isolated," legal counsel added. "If we fight this, we're looking at federal civil rights violation under 42 U.S.C. A 1983, possible excessive force, false arrest, maybe even monoclaim against the city for pattern and practice. Best case 7 figures. Worst case much higher." Delgado looked at Sullivan and Newman. "You too. You saw a black man standing still, reading, and your first thought was vandalism. Explain." Sullivan shifted. "He fit a description." "There was no description," she cut in. "No call. No 911. You invented it." Newman stared at his hands. Delgado continued. "You're both on paid administrative leave, effective now. Badges and guns on my desk. You don't set foot in a district without my signature." They complied. By 11 a.m. that same day, October 16, the Fraternal Order of Police Lodge 5 released a statement defending officer safety and split second decisions. Public reaction was immediate and furious. Hashtags #FendJustice for Leon and Faye Liberty Bell heiress trended regionally, then nationally. Leon, meanwhile, stayed home. Reporters camped outside his house by afternoon. He gave one controlled interview to the Inquirer at 3 p.m. on his front porch. No cameras inside, protecting Carla's privacy. Reporter, "Are you angry?" Leon, "I'm disappointed. This country sent me to fight for its ideals. Then 2 men in uniform reminded me some people still don't see me as equal under those ideals. That hurts more than the cuffs." He paused. "But I'm not broken. I'll keep teaching. I'll keep showing up at the bell. Because that bell still means something, even when people try to silence it." The quote went viral within hours. Comment below if you think qualified immunity protects the wrong people too often. Drop your thoughts. I read everyone. By October 17, 2019, 48 hours after the arrest, the story had crossed state lines and landed on national morning shows. Good Morning America ran a 2-minute 20-second package at 7:12 a.m. Eastern Day, split screen of Leon's calm interview on his porch next to the viral takedown footage. Anchor Robin Roberts read the Chiron aloud. Philadelphia teacher and Gulf War veteran wrongfully detained at Liberty Bell. Police on defensive. View counts stabilized but kept climbing. 9.2 million combined across major platforms by end of day. TikTok duets exploded. Young creators lip syncing Leon's porch quote while overlaying civil rights footage from the 1960s. One Stitch video juxtaposed the Liberty Bell ringing in archival film with the sound of cuffs clicking on Leon's wrists. It alone hit 3.1 million views. Inside Philadelphia City Hall, pressure mounted fast. Mayor Jim Kenney's chief of staff convened a 9 a.m. crisis call with Police Commissioner Richard Ross, Corporation Counsel Sozi Talante, and the city's risk management director. The agenda had one line: foster matter, exposure and liability estimate. Talante opened bluntly: "We're looking at a Section 1983 suit. Falls arrest, excessive force, possible First Amendment retaliation claim since he was reading history in a public forum. Ad Monell liability, failure to train, supervise, or discipline officers with documented patterns." Sullivan has 7 prior complaints, Newman 5. Department data shows black Philadelphians are stopped at 3.4 times the rate of white residents despite similar hit rates. That's pattern evidence. Risk Management Director slid a preliminary spreadsheet across the table, low end settlement. A 1.8, 2.4 million mid-range LA with punitive damages, 6.7 million high-end LAs if federal court plus pattern proven, 12 million Ross rubbed his temple. "We can't let this become another Freddie Gray payout. Kenny's chief. Then we move fast. Full internal investigation, public apology, disciplinary action visible to the public. And we talked to Foster's attorney before he files. By 11:30 a.m., the PPD announced, Sullivan and Newman fired, effective immediately, for egregious violation of department policy on use of force, de-escalation, and bias-free policing. No pension forfeiture, union contract protected it, but both lost badges, guns, and any future city employment. The statement included rare language. The actions captured on video do not reflect the values of this department or the men and women who serve honorably every day. Public reaction split predictably. Some cop support accounts called it a rush to judgment. Most others celebrated Fire Themboth trended with 47,000 posts in 12 hours. Leon received his first lawyer outreach at 1:15 p.m. Civil rights attorney Jamal Carter from the firm Hyman, Spectre and Mars, known for winning 7-figure police misconduct cases in Philly. Carter didn't mince words on the initial call, or Mr. Foster. They assaulted you at one of the most symbolic places in America. We can prove excessive force, racial profiling inference, and deliberate indifference by the city. I'd like to represent you on contingency. We aim high. Leon listened quietly, then asked one question. Will this help change things for the next person? Carter, if we do it right, yes. They agreed to meet the next day. October 18 brought the first lawsuit filing, not by Leon, yet. A class action firm filed a separate Monell suit against the city on behalf of 5 prior complainants against Sullivan and Newman, citing the Foster incident as further evidence of unconstitutional pattern. It sought injunctive relief, some mandatory bias training, body cam audits, plus damages. That afternoon, Leon and Carla sat with Carter in a Center City office. Carter laid out timelines, notice of claim filed within 6 months, federal suit within 2 years. But he pushed for speed. Media momentum is our leverage. We file soon, we settle faster and higher. Leon nodded. I don't want this to be about money. I want accountability. Real change. Carter smiled. Then we'll make the money force the change. By evening, the Philadelphia School District issued a statement. We stand fully behind Mr. Foster, a 24-year veteran educator of impeccable character. We have offered him paid leave for as long as needed and are exploring ways to honor his service. Rumors circulated of a 75,100 Zalwin recognition bonus. For Leon, unprecedented, but politically smart. October 9 Diney press conference at City Hall steps. Mayor Kenny, Commissioner Ross, and Council President Darrell Clark stood together. Rare unity. Kenny spoke first. Yesterday we terminated officers Sullivan and Newman. Today I apologize directly to Mr. Leon Foster and his family. What happened at Independence Mall was wrong. It was unnecessary. It was unacceptable. We are reviewing every aspect of this incident and will implement reforms to ensure it never happens again. Ross followed. We are launching a top-to-bottom audit of use of force incidents from 2015-2019 with independent oversight. We are also expanding de-escalation training and implicit bias programs citywide. No questions allowed. But the apology aired live on every local channel and looped on national cable news. That night, Leon finally addressed the cameras again. Short statement from his driveway. I accept the apology, but words must lead to action. I served this country in uniform once. I serve it again every day in the classroom. Freedom isn't real if some of us can be handcuffed for reading about it. I hope this moment leads to real reform. Views of that clippy 6.4 million in 24 hours. Comment below if you think police departments should lose qualified immunity when patterns like this are proven. Type no immunity if you agree it's time for change. October 2019, 4 days after the arrest, and the city's response was moving at warp speed. Mostly because the alternative was a federal courthouse and headlines for years. At 9:00 a.m. sharp, Leon Foster and attorney Jamal Carter walked into the office of the city solicitor on JFK Boulevard. No cameras, no leaks to the press. Just a conference room, bottled water, and a stack of legal documents thick enough to stop a bullet. Corporation counsel Sozi Talante sat at the head of the table with 2 deputies and the risk manager. They didn't waste time on small talk. Talante spoke first. Mr. Foster, the city wants to resolve this quickly and fairly. We're prepared to offer $3.75 million to settle all claims. Civil rights violations, excessive force, false imprisonment, emotional distress, and medical costs. In return, we ask for a full release and confidentiality on the exact amount. Carter didn't blink. 3.75 is a starting point, not an ending point. We have body cam footage, multiple civilian videos from different angles, 7 prior complaints against Sullivan, 5 against Newman, statistical disparities in stops and force used against black residents, and a location that makes this case symbolically radioactive, the Liberty Bell. You're not buying silence. You're buying accountability. Leon sat quietly, hands folded, letting his lawyer work. He'd already decided any money would go towards scholarships for students at Overbrook High who wanted to study history or criminal justice, and to veterans' mental health programs in Philly. Talante leaned forward. "What's your number?" Carter slid a single sheet across a 9.2 million. Breakdown attached, 2.am compensatory, and the 4M punitive US to send a message to the rank and filed, 1.4M for future medical therapy. Leon's wrist still ached, nightmares had returned, a 1M attorney fees and costs. The room went quiet for 18 seconds. Tulante, that's high. Carter, it's proportionate. And it's cheaper than a trial where jurors see that bell in the background while your officers slam a veteran to the pavement. They recessed for 40 minutes. When they returned, Tulante countered at 5.8 million plus a public policy commitment independent audit of the department's stop and frisk data for 3 years, mandatory de-escalation refreshers for every officer twice a year, and creation of a civilian review board with subpoena power. Carter looked at Leon. Leon gave the smallest nod. 7.4 million total, Carter said. 6.2M to Mr. Foster, what 1.2M fees? Plus the policy changes in writing enforceable by court order. No confidentiality on the dollar figure. We want the public to know what accountability costs. Another recess, this time 55 minutes. At 1:47 p.m. they shook on 7.1 million cash to Leon, 1.3 million fees, total 8.4 million. Policy reforms locked in via consent decree monitored by a federal magistrate for 36 months. The city would issue a second, more detailed public apology at a joint press conference with Leon present. Leon spoke for the first time in the room. "I accept this not because it fixes everything, but because it's a step. My students deserve to learn in a city that learns from its mistakes." Handshakes. Papers signed by 3:15 p.m. The settlement was announced at 5:00 p.m. that same day, City Hall press room packed. Mayor Kenny stood beside Leon, Commissioner Ross on the other side. "Kenny, today we reach a fair resolution with Mr. Leon Foster in the amount of 8.4 million. This is not just about one incident, it is about rebuilding trust. We are implementing sweeping reforms, and we thank Mr. Foster for his grace and his service to his country and to our children." Leon stepped to the podium. Short, measured, "I didn't ask for this moment, but since it came, I hope it means the next black man standing at the Liberty Bell reading history won't be forced to the ground. I hope my students see that speaking truth to power still matters. And I hope every officer remembers the badge is a responsibility, not a shield." The room erupted in applause, some genuine, some polite. Cameras caught every second. Over the next week, the Philadelphia School District followed through. On October 28, at a special assembly in Overbrook High's auditorium as capacity word 200, standing room only, Superintendent William Height presented Leon with a $120,000 Excellence in Education and Community Service Award, tax-free, funded by private donations and district reserves. A new scholarship in Leon's name was announced. Full tuition for one graduating senior per year to study history or education at a Pennsylvania public university. Students made signs, Mehmed Ser, Foster freedom fighter. One girl read a poem she wrote titled, "The Bell Still Rings." Leon teared up, first time publicly. By end of October, Sullivan and Newman had both lawyered up. Sullivan filed for unemployment. Newman moved back to his parents' house in South Philly. Both faced possible state charges: simple assault, false arrest, official oppression. But the DA's office was slow, walking it. Citing ongoing civil resolution, Federal DOJ Civil Rights Division opened a preliminary inquiry on November 4, focusing on pattern or practice in the PPD's 22nd District. No charges yet, but the shadow hung heavy. Leon returned to teaching November 4. First period US, history. He walked in wearing the same red windbreaker, cleaned, pressed. The class stood and clapped for 47 seconds straight. He raised a hand. "Let's get to work," he said. "Today we talk about the Bill of Rights, because knowing them isn't enough. You have to live them." The lesson plan included a new section, When Rights Are Tested. November 2019 through early 2020 became the quiet aftermath phase, where headlines fade but the real works and the real pain continues. Leon returned to full-time teaching on November 4th, 2019. The first week back felt surreal. Hallways that once echoed with casual, "Hey, Mr. F," now carried a new respect. Students whispered when he passed. Teachers stopped him to shake his hand, some with tears. One colleague, a young white math teacher named Sarah Klein, pulled him aside. "I've been teaching here 8 years and never really understood what my black students face outside these walls. Thank you for opening my eyes." Leon didn't lecture. He just nodded. "Keep listening to them. That's enough." In class, he kept his promise. The new unit on the Bill of Rights now included a 20-minute segment titled, "When Rights Collide with Reality." He showed anonymized stills from the body, Kamza, with district approval, and asked open questions. What does unreasonable search and seizure mean when you're the one being seized? How does the Fourth Amendment feel different depending on who you are? Participation hit record highs. 92% of students spoke up over 3 days. Outside school, Leon quietly began counseling more veterans. The nightmares had intensified after the incident, sand, sirens, cuffs instead of rifles. He joined a weekly group at the VA Center in University City, sharing his story without seeking pity. "We fought for freedom overseas," he told them. "Sometimes we have to fight for it at home too." Attendance doubled in 2 months. The criminal side moved slower. On December 12, 2019, the Philadelphia DA's office announced charges against both officers. Brett Sullivan, felony official oppression, is 18 pay CS front 301, misdemeanor simple assault, and false imprisonment. Travis Newman, same charges, plus aiding and abetting. Both pleaded not guilty at arraignment on January 8, 2020. Bail set at 50,000 each, posted quickly by family and union funds. Trial was scheduled for September 2020, but COVID delays pushed it to March 2021. Sullivan's defense leaned on good faith belief and officer safety. Newman's lawyer argued he was following his senior partner's lead. Neither took the stand. Body cam and civilian videos became the prosecution's star witnesses. On March 18, 2021, after a 2-week bench trial, jury waived due to pandemic restrictions. Judge Elena Marquez delivered verdicts: Sullivan guilty on all 3 counts, Newman guilty on false imprisonment and official oppression, not guilty on assault. Judge found insufficient evidence. He initiated physical force. Sentencing came June 4, 2021. Sullivan received 1836 months, state prisons, minimum 18 served, plus 7,500 fine and permanent decertification as an officer in Pennsylvania. Newman got 1224 months, minimum 12, 5,000 fine, and decertification. Both lost appeals in 2022. The city paid the $8.4 million settlement in 2 installments. $5 million by December 2019, balanced by March 2020. Leon directed $3.2 million to the Leon Foster Future Historians Scholarship Fund endowed at Temple University, awards 810 full rides, annual leave. The $1.8 million to Philadelphia Veterans Mental Health Initiative, ELS, expanding free therapy to 400 EPS vets per year, and the rest to family security, home modifications for aging in place, and a modest trust for his grandchildren. By mid-2021, the PPD reforms were measurable. Stop and frisk incidents down 41%. Citywide use of force reports involving black civilians dropped 28%. Civilian complaints upheld rose from 9% to 22%. Independent oversight credited. Mandatory bias training expanded to 40 hours annually per officer. A 2022 DOJ report noted significant progress in the 22nd District. No full pattern or practice suit filed. Leon's national profile grew quietly. He spoke at 3 teacher conferences in 2021-2022, keynoted a veteran summit in DC, and appeared on PBS, American Experience, special about modern civil rights. Always the same message. History isn't just what happened, it's what we do next. In 2023, the school district renamed the Overbrook High History Wing the Leon Foster Legacy Hall. A bronze plaque at the entrance reads, "For a teacher who reminded us that freedom must be taught, protected, and lived every day." Leon still visits the Liberty Bell, now with students once a month. He stands at the same plaque, red windbreaker, sometimes swapped for a navy jacket. He reads aloud, voice steady, then asks the kids, "What does this bell mean to you today?" Answers vary. But one thing stays constant: no officer has ever approached him there again. By late 2023, the dust had mostly settled, but the echoes remained loud in Philadelphia. Leon Foster, now 58, still taught 5 classes a day at Overbrook High. His classroom overlooked the athletic field where kids practiced football under floodlights. On the wall behind his desk hung a framed photo from the 2023 renaming ceremony. Leon cutting the ribbon for Lon Foster Legacy Hall, surrounded by smiling students holding signs that read, "Teach Truth," and "Liberty for All." He never asked for the honor. The district insisted. He kept the same routine 5:30 a.m. jogs, now only 2 miles. Knees reminded him of his age. Coffee black, lesson prep. Then the short drive to school in his same gray Camry, now with 148,000 miles. The red windbreaker still hung in his closet, worn only on crisp fall days when he took classes to Independence Mall. On those field trips, he always paused at the same plaque. He read the text aloud, then asked the same question, what does freedom cost, and who pays the price? Answers had evolved. One student in 2024 wrote in her reflection essay, "Freedom costs courage. Foster paid part of it, so we don't have to." The scholarships bearing his name had already graduated their first 3 recipients, all studying history or education. One young woman, Tiana Brooks, sent Leon a letter from her dorm at Westchester University. "I'm majoring in secondary ed because of you. I want to teach kids like me that their voices matter. Thank you for showing us what standing tall looks like." Nationally, the incident became a quiet case study. In 2022, the U.S. Department of Justice released a 4 to 8-page report on police reform in mid-sized cities, citing Philadelphia's Post, Foster changes as a model of rapid response and measurable improvement. Stop disparities narrowed further, down 52% from 2019 baselines by 2024. Use of force incidents involving black residents fell 37%. Civilian trust score serials from annual surveys rose 14 points in the 22nd district, but Leon never claimed victory. In a rare 2024 interview with WHYY Public Radio, he said, "Change isn't a settlement check or 2 firings. It's when the next generation doesn't have to experience what I did. We're not there yet, but we're walking toward it." Sullivan and Newman faded from public view. Sullivan served 22 months, released in 2023, now living quietly in Bucks County working private security. Ironic, many noted. Newman completed 14 months, moved out of state to Ohio, took a warehouse job. Neither ever spoke publicly again. Pennsylvania permanently revoked their police certifications. Neither could carry a badge anywhere in the Commonwealth. The city's $8.4 million payout became a benchmark. In the 3 years following, Philadelphia paid out an average $6.1 million annually in police misconduct settlements, down from $11.4 million in 2018-2019. Critics still called it too much. Advocates said it proved financial pain forces policy pain. Leon and Carla celebrated their 33rd anniversary in 2024 with a small dinner at their Germantown home. Their daughters flew in, one from Atlanta, one from Boston, with grandchildren in tow. Over dessert, Carla raised a glass. To the man who turned cuffs into a classroom, Leon smiled softly. To the family that kept me steady. In the final tally, 2 badges permanently lost, 2 prison sentences served, 8.4 million changed hands, reforms locked in for 36 months and quietly extended, 1 man's dignity defended, and thousands of students taught that history isn't just dates, it's choices. Leon still visits the Liberty Bell alone sometimes, early mornings before the crowds. He stands hands in pockets and listens to the city wake up. The bell doesn't ring anymore, but in his mind it still does. Clear, insistent, reminding everyone within earshot freedom isn't given, it's guarded. And sometimes, guarding it means refusing to stay silent when someone tries to take yours. If this story reminded you why accountability matters, share it. Let someone else see what one calm, principled man can set in motion. Thank you for following Leon Foster's journey from start to finish. If stories of real people facing real injustice and winning meaningful change matter to you, hit subscribe so you never miss the next one. See you in the next story. Type "freedom guarded" in the comments if you believe we all have a role in protecting what the Liberty Bell stands for.